I'm Liyana Hassanel, and this is Nightline, news making the headlines. Special task force established to reduce overcrowding at public hospitals. And luxury goods tax expected to be introduced mid-2023. Good morning. The Special Task Force on Agency Reform, STAR, established by the government, will lead the initiative to reduce overcrowding at public hospitals. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof said the Special Task Force, chaired by Chief Secretary to the government Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali, involves several other agencies that will discuss improvement measures that could be implemented. According to Datuk Sri Fadilah, the improvements include short, medium and long-term measures, as well as collaboration with the private medical sector. He added that the issue still exists because the public prefers government hospitals for the quality services offered, in addition to the low cost.
Bila bertambah baik, keyakinan rakyat untuk pergi ke hospital sebab perkhidmatan kesihatan yang baik sudah pasti akan merujuk kepada hospital kerajaan. Yang kedua, disebabkan hospital kita menyediakan perkhidmatan boleh dikatakan hampir percuma. Begitu murah sekali kalau kita bandingkan dengan perkhidmatan hospital swasta.
Datuk Sri Fadilah told the Dewan Rakyat that the issue of overcrowding in government hospitals also indicated that a large number of Malaysians do not lead healthy lifestyles, resulting in their need for medical treatment. To help address this issue, he encouraged all MPs to collaborate with the Health Ministry in promoting a healthy lifestyle among the people, which will alleviate the strain on government hospitals. The salaries of civil servants will be discussed again when the country's coffers improve and the nation's fiscal deficit can be reduced. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim said he agreed that civil servants deserve better salaries for their service and dedication. However, the country's financial capabilities must also be taken into consideration.
Cara kita bertindak dalam beberapa bulan ini dan pulangan ini 2 bilion, 7 bilion, 8 bilion. Ini 8 bilion ringgit itu masuk dalam tabung keuangan negara. 1 sen pun tak bocor. Kalau ada yang bocor saya, tahulah saya buat apa. Kalau katung negara itu sudah cukup baik, penjawat awam percayalah, saya tetap akan beri keutamaan kepada nasib dan
He said this to when delivering the mandate to state and federal civil servants at the Sabah International Convention Centre in Kota Kinabalu on Tuesday. Datuk Sri Anwar explained that the country was facing a fiscal deficit of 5.6% and a total debt of about 1.5 trillion ringgit, which needed to be given priority in order to ensure the country's prosperity. As such, he called on all civil servants to practice integrity and good governance to ensure the country can be managed perfectly, in addition to reviving the country's finances immediately. Datuk Sri Anwar, meanwhile, is expected to discuss various important issues, including commerce, investment, economics and security with Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. during his 2-day official visit to the country beginning Wednesday. Both leaders will also talk about regional issues, especially those relating to the South China Sea, with hopes that the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, would serve as the best catalyst to tackle and resolve them.
Satu lawatan yang sangat signifikan, memandangkan Yang Amat Berhormat Perdana Menteri adalah ketua kerajaan yang pertama yang membuat lawatan rasmi ke Filipina, dan tentunya yang menggambarkan tentang peri pentingnya hubungan dua hala antara Malaysia dan Filipina.
Speaking to Malaysian reporters at a media conference in Manila on Tuesday, Datuk Sri Zamri said that the current trade relations between both countries were good and free of disputes, although there is some trade imbalance. This is Datuk Sri Anwar's first visit to the country since becoming Prime Minister. Upon his arrival, Datuk Sri Anwar will head to Malacanang Palace to pay a courtesy call to Marcos before joining the meetings involving the delegations from both countries. On the second day, the Prime Minister is scheduled to hold a talk entitled 30 Years After Asia's Rising Wave, Strategic Lessons for ASEAN at the University of the Philippines. He will also receive an honorary doctorate from the University Senate and meet with the Malaysian diaspora in the Philippines. The luxury goods tax is expected to be introduced in the second half of this year. Second Deputy Finance Minister Stephen Sim Chi Keong said a suitable taxation mechanism is still being studied and refined by the government.
Setiap dasar mempunyai trade-off, ya, terutamanya dasar pencukaian. Dan dalam aspek ini, saya dah katakan tadi, semasa kita buat kajian, kita akan mendapatkan maklum balas dari pemegang tahu industri, termasuk industri pelancongan, peruncitan dan sebagainya. Dan kita akan pastikan supaya Malaysia kekal kompetitif dalam aspek pelancongan.
Sim added that the list of luxury items that will be taxed as well as the rate to be imposed were still being fine-tuned so that the introduction of the new tax would not affect the country's competitiveness. He explained that the government's objective was to reform the tax system to broaden the government's revenue base and make it more progressive and fair for the people. On Friday, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, when tabling the revised 2023 budget, said government would implement the luxury goods tax this year to expand its tax base among higher income earners. Among the items that could be taxed included luxury watches and high fashion items. Now, Malaysia University of Science and Technology MUST Research and Innovation Provost Professor Jeffrey Williams opined that a high-rate luxury goods tax needs to be introduced for it to have a significant impact on the government's revenue. The economist, however, believed that the new tax would not affect the country's tourism sector, as Malaysia has much to offer to international tourists beyond high-end shopping.
The total size of luxury goods sales in Malaysia is about 8.4 billion ringgit. So in order to raise a significant amount of money, the tax would actually have to be really quite high. If it was set at 5%, for example, it would raise only 420 million ringgit, which is not very much at all compared to 291 billion ringgit of government revenue. There are some concerns about how a tax on luxury goods might affect spending behaviour, particularly for tourists. It may have some effect, but probably not as much as people might think. The real effect would be how we define luxury goods and whether there are some goods, for example, mobile phones or tablets or IT equipment that people need for their normal day-to-day activity, or children at school need to have access to IT products. And if these find their way into the definition of luxury goods, then it could make those types of products more expensive. So that would be a problem in terms of setting not just the rate of tax on the luxury goods, but also the scope of the luxury goods tax to make sure that some things which are actually quite essential are not included as luxury products.
The Dewan Rakyat on Tuesday was told that the government could save up to 17 billion ringgit if the top 20 income groups, T20, was not given petrol, diesel and liquefied petroleum gas LPG subsidies, which amounted to 50.8 billion ringgit last year. Deputy Finance Minister Datuk Sri Ahmad Maslan said in 2022, consumption of the three types of fuel in the lowest income group B40 was only 24%, while the middle income group M40 was 41% and T20 was at 35%.
Jika kita tidak mahu lagi T20 mendapat subsidi petrol, diesel, LPG, kerajaan boleh menjimatkan 15 ke 17 bilion ringgit. Jika T20 tidak diberikan subsidi petrol, diesel, LPG, anggaran penjimatan 15 ke 17 bilion ringgit. Jadi ahli-ahli yang berhormat boleh bayangkan berapa banyak perkara lain yang kita boleh guna daripada 15 ke 17 bilion ringgit itu untuk membantu rakyat dalam pelbagai perkara dan urusan di 26 kementerian.
Earlier, Datuk Sri Ahmad said consumer subsidies amounted to 66.3 billion ringgit last year, and the 5 largest subsidy expenditures involved fuel, cooking oil, electricity, as well as eggs and chicken. He also revealed that the government was still studying the mechanism for targeted subsidies. He added, although subsidies had helped many people affected by the rising cost of living, a targeted approach was needed to prevent leakages. In a related matter, 2 more petrol stations selling unsubsidized petrol and diesel will be opened within the next 6 months to allow foreign registered vehicles to purchase fuel at the country's borders. Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub said business was good at the 2 existing unsubsidized fuel stations at the Malaysia-Thailand border at Padang Besar and Wang Kelian Perlis, despite selling fuel at prices higher than subsidized prices.
Dan saya pun dah beritahu Kabinet dalam nota kita bahawa kenapa tidak kita explore stesen minyak tanpa subsidi ini di sepadan kita di sebelah timur, Kelantan, dan juga di sebelah selatan iaitu Singapura. Johor, mungkin lebih banyak stesen ini boleh kita buat di Johor Bahru. Kerana harga minyak kita dengan Singapura pun masih lagi jarak beza yang sangat jauh.
Datuk Sri Salahuddin said this during the monthly ministry meeting in Putrajaya on Tuesday. He added that he had also discussed the possibility of setting up petrol stations selling unsubsidized fuel in several towns within the areas bordering Indonesia with Sarawak Premier Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg recently. However, he did not rule out the possibility of proposing to the Cabinet the establishment of a task force involving various ministries in an effort to curb the leakage of diesel subsidies. He acknowledged that his ministry cannot act alone, and this effort requires strategic cooperation with other ministries and agencies. The action of filing claims against Malaysia through arbitration proceedings by the self-proclaimed Sulu S instead of going through the International Court of Justice, ICJ, is believed to be a litigation strategy for the purpose of getting money. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said, did not rule out that the Sulu Group might target other assets of the country when filing their claims.
The strategy now, they have tried everything, so this is the strategy that they are trying now, which is using the international commercial education and targeting all our assets, whether directly owned by the government or partly owned by the government.
Datuk Sri Azalina said this to the media after a briefing on the issue of claims by the purported heirs of the Sulu Sultanate at the Parliament building on Tuesday. She reiterated that the government would not compromise in the aspect of Malaysia's sovereignty and security and would continue to take the necessary action to stop the Sulu claims. She also hoped to get the solid support of all members of Parliament, regardless of their political leanings, in efforts to uphold the country's sovereignty. Sunak sells new Brexit deal to EU. This and more from the Foreign Front right after this short break. Welcome back. Hong Kong will drop its COVID-19 mask mandate on Wednesday in a move to lure back visitors and businesses and restore to normal life, more than 3 years after stringent rules were first imposed in the financial hub. The city's chief executive, John Lee, on Tuesday said the requirement of wearing masks will end outdoors and indoors, including public transit. However, in high-risk places such as hospitals and elderly homes, administrators can still require for staffs and visitors to wear masks. Hong Kong's relaxation of mask rules follows the lead of the neighbouring Chinese territory of Macau, which relaxed its own mask rules on Monday. The Special Administrative Region of Hong Kong is one of the last places globally that still imposes a mask mandate. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was in Northern Ireland on Tuesday to sell his new deal with the European Union to ease post-Brexit trade, a measure he hopes will finally break the political deadlock in the province. Sunak is trying to secure the backing of all sides in Northern Ireland in order for him to reset relations with the EU and the United States without angering lawmakers in his own party and in Belfast, who are most wedded to Brexit.
That is the prize that is on offer. Because if we get this right, if we get this framework implemented, if we get the executive back up and running here, Northern Ireland is in the unbelievably special position, unique position in the entire world, European continent, in having privileged access, not just to the UK home market, which is enormous, 5th biggest in the world, but also the European Union single market. And I'm really pleased.
His deal seeks to resolve the tensions caused by the Northern Ireland Protocol, a complex agreement which set the trading rules for the British-governed region that London agreed before it left the EU in 2020. In order to keep open the politically sensitive border with EU member Ireland, Northern Ireland remained in the EU's single market for goods, raising the prospect it would slowly diverge from the rest of the United Kingdom, feeling fears in unionist communities. Sunak added that his agreement, the Windsor Framework, would strengthen the union, scrap rules that affected everything from the import of sausages to sandwiches, and give lawmakers on the ground a greater say over the rules and regulations they take from Brussels. However, the new framework has yet to secure the backing of the Democratic Unionist Party, DUP, Northern Ireland's largest pro-UK party, which is needed to resume power sharing in the province. In another development, provisional results from Nigeria's disputed presidential election over the weekend showed Bola Tinubu from the ruling party in the lead. A Reuters tally of votes in 25 of the country's 36 states showed on Tuesday that Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress Party, APC, was ahead with about 36%, or 7 million of valid votes counted. Atiku Abubakar of the main opposition, People's Democratic Party, meanwhile, are trailing close behind with 30%, or nearly 6 million of valid votes. Peter Obi of the smaller Labour Party got 20%, or about 3.8 million votes, and more results were expected to show the winner later on Tuesday. The preliminary results were announced in the States by Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, officers, and will still have to be presented at the Commission's National Collation Centre in the federal capital, Abuja. After this breather, premises linked to international scam syndicate raided. Stay with us for the details. Segambut Bersatu Deputy Chief Adam Ratlan Adam Muhammad has been charged again in the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court on Tuesday on a charge of soliciting a bribe of 2 million ringgit relating to a Jana Wibawa project. The 42-year-old accused, who is also a businessman, pleaded not guilty after the charge was read to him before Judge Azura Alwi. It was alleged that Adam Ratlan had asked for the bribe from Lian Tian Chuan as a reward to help Nepturist Sindrian Berhad to get a government contract for the Klang Utara District Office in Selangor worth 141 million ringgit. The offence was allegedly committed at a restaurant in Publica Damansara in January last year. The charge under the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission MACC Act provides a maximum prison term of 20 years and a fine of not less than 5 times the amount of the bribe, or 10,000 ringgit, whichever is higher upon conviction. The court fixed March 23rd for case mention. Last week, Adam Ratlan was charged with 4 counts of soliciting and accepting bribes concerning the Jana Wibawa scheme at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court and Shah Alam Sessions Court. The Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC on Tuesday raided another premises allegedly operated by an international investment scam syndicate. It was believed that the premises, located less than a kilometre away from the Kuala Lumpur Police Headquarters, was undergoing renovations to be turned into a call centre and used to launder money through cryptocurrency. According to the Graft Buster, the newly set up operation center has been operating since January. However, no arrest was made during the raid. About 200 computers, a few smartphones, and cash amounting to about 5,000 ringgit were seized from the premises. Also found were employment contracts, purportedly for the purpose of hiring workers to work at the call center. Last week, the MACC smashed an international investment scam syndicate, which had raked in a whopping 200 million ringgit from victims in Australia and the United Kingdom, following simultaneous raids at 24 premises in the Klang Valley and Pulau Pinang. As Nightline draws to a close this time around, let's take a look at a 360-degree digital immersive art experience, Van Gogh the Immersive Experience in Singapore's RWS. More than 300 of the Dutch artist's sketches, drawings and paintings were showcased using floor-to-ceiling and wall-to-wall large-scale digital projections. I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for tuning in and take care, Malaysia.